Imagine everything in the universe, every atom, every particle, every force comes from the vibrations of tiny, invisible strings. That's the heart of what scientists today call string theory. These strings aren't made of matter, they're energy, vibrating at different frequencies to form the building blocks of everything. But here's what's stunning. Over 1400 years ago, the Qur'an hinted at a multi-dimensional reality. It speaks of 7 heavens, layers of existence beyond our own, and a creation held together by what it calls a strong cord. Could these ancient verses be pointing towards a deeper structure of the universe, one that modern science is only beginning to unravel? Are we only now discovering what was always there? Modern 21st century mankind tends to value science as the arbiter of truth because science is tested, it is tangible. A hypothesis is stated, and variables are introduced and studied to conclude if the hypothesis is correct or not. But divine knowledge from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has always been in existence, but was revealed to the unlettered Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the year 610. Muslims believe that the Qur'an is a miracle and a direct word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creator of heavens and the earth, and all between. The Holy Qur'an has science that predates modern scientific discovery, invention, and knowledge. The Qur'an has abundant, miraculous signs throughout. Let's look at some of the higher sciences. Before we start, it is important to note that verses in the Qur'an vary from metaphorical, symbolic, allegorical, and literal. Let's start with string theory. The definition of string theory is the idea that the smallest building blocks of the universe are tiny, vibrating strings instead of point-like particles. These strings can vibrate in different ways, creating all the particles and forces we see, including gravity. It's an attempt to explain everything in the universe using one big theory. Surah 4, Ayat 49. Have you not seen those who claim purity for themselves? Rather, Allah purifies whom He will, and they will not be wronged, even by as much as a thread of a date seed. This refers to divine justice. The date seed is metaphorical and visual at the same time. If you were to split open a date seed and look inside, it is very fine and subtle. Some interpret this verse as to the fine, vibrating strings in string theory. The Qur'an uses tiny thread-like visuals to define a concept of divine justice, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not being unjust to His creation in the least bit. Surah 4, Ayat 124. And whoever does righteous deeds, whether male or female, while being a believer, those will enter paradise and will not be wronged, even by as much as a speck on a date seed. This verse again puts emphasis on justice. It is not coincidental that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about justice and how some will enter heaven or hell by the tiniest of margins, it uses the word speck, which is small. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states that on the day of judgment, we will wish our margin between our good deeds and our bad deeds was wider. Let's explore the multiverse theory. The idea that there could be multiple or even infinite universes beyond our own. This has evolved over time, blending science, philosophy, and cosmology. Here's a timeline when it began. 1957, physicist Hugh Everett III proposed the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics. He suggested that every quantum event creates a split, forming parallel universe, one for each possible outcome. This was one of the first formal multiverse ideas in physics. In the early 1980s, physicist Alan Guth developed the theory of cosmic inflation, the idea that the early universe expanded extremely rapidly right after the Big Bang. Later, Andre Linde proposed that inflation might not stop everywhere at once. This leads to a multiverse of bubble universes, each potentially with different physical laws. As early as the 1990s, string theory introduced the idea of 10 or 11 dimensions, and different ways these dimensions can be, quote, folded could produce different universes. Some theorists suggested that our universe is just one brane, a membrane-like universe among many. The multiverse is still highly speculative. No direct evidence exists yet, but is taken seriously in certain areas of theoretical physics and cosmology, especially when addressing the fine-tuning of the universe, quantum computing, dark energy, and inflation. The multiverse theory entered mainstream physics in the 1950s, but it has deep roots in both quantum theory and cosmology. It is not proven, but it's one of the most mind-bending ideas science is still exploring. Let's examine what the Qur'an revealed in the 7th century. Surah 65, Ayat 12. It is Allah who created the 7 heavens and of the earth, the like of them. The command descends among them so that you may know Allah is competent over all things, and that Allah has encompassed all things in knowledge. Interpreted as multi-layers of heavens and earth, our earth has 7 layers as well, made up of chemical and mechanical compositional properties, such as the crust, mantle, outer core, inner core, lithosphere, asthenosphere, and mesosphere. The number 7 in Islam has deep spiritual and specific meaning. Besides the mentioned 7 heavens and 7 layers of our earth, there's also the circling of the Kaaba 7 times during the Hajj and Umrah pilgrimages. The 7 verses of the opening chapter in the Qur'an, Al-Fatiha. There's 7 body parts that touch during the sajda, the prostration, illustrating Muslims' total submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Islam is about balance. So 7 heavens also means 7 hells. The number 7 symbolizes completion and divine order. Like the number 40 or 99, 7 in Islam represents completion of a divine cycle, whether in the structure of the cosmos, acts of worship, or layers of reality. In the next episode, we will continue with the sciences, some that are really cool, like cosmic acceleration, cosmic expansion, quantum tunneling, and more, because we all know it started with the Big Bang.